Hey, welcome to the Grace Life Church podcast. I'm your host. I'm Brian Clark. I'm the pastor here at Grace Life Church, and excited for the topic we're going to get into today and over the next couple of weeks on our podcast. So if you're new to the channel, before we get into it, the topic we're going to get into, which is on identity, which is a big kind of controversial topic. You see a lot in the news right now. I would encourage you, if you're enjoying this content, like and subscribe to our channel, share it on Facebook, social media, and so on. Helps us get the gospel out, get the word of God out to other people, and you'll get updates when they come out from us. So, but today what we're going to get into, again, is this topic on identity, and Tonya McKinley is here with us. Tonya leads our women's ministry at Grace Life Church, and so Tonya, real quickly, just tell everybody who you are.
I'm Tonya McKinley. I am a member here at Grace Life. Like Pastor Brian said, I'm one of the co-leaders of our women's ministry. I'm also a Charis Bible College graduate, and I have my own ministry, women's ministry, called Hadassah Ministries.
So, yep, and Tonya is really, really awesome, and I'll plug her ministry real quick. Check her out online, Hadassah. What's the website?
It's hadassah-ministries.org.
Yep, so if you want to find out more, check it out. She's a really awesome minister of the gospel. And so, but I'd asked Tonya, because I know she's got a real heart for this as well, to begin to talk, we're going to talk about identity and this, just what's going on. And I think I want to maybe introduce it this way. As I was just telling you a minute ago, I just read an article yesterday about Jennifer Lopez introduces her 14-year-old daughter at a concert with gender neutral pronouns, and so not as a her, but just as a it, they, them. What do you think about that? What's going on in the world?
It's honestly, it's a little crazy. I mean, you don't know how to take it. You know, we weren't raised that way. We weren't, whether you're raised in the church or not in the church, it's confusing, number one. So if it's confusing to us, how is it to that child? I mean, you got to think, what are you telling your child? Your child's saying, you know, we grew up, we knew we were confused about some things. You know, you grow up, your hormones are raging, you're going through life, you don't know who you are. Am I a tomboy? Am I a girl? But I never doubted that I was a girl. But when you start putting those ideas into people's heads, of course they're going to think, you know, maybe I am something else. Maybe I'm not a girl. Maybe I'm not. But, you know, we all had a little bit of confusion growing up, but it doesn't mean that we're not who we were created to be.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Out of curiosity, because I hadn't asked you this, from the time you can remember, you know, however old that was, 3 or 4, to the time, let's say you graduated high school, how many times did you just change what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Oh, my gosh. I couldn't tell you how many times. I mean, it was like I wanted to be a ballerina, I wanted to be a veterinarian, I went to school for business, but I ended up going to Bible college. I mean, honestly, you change your mind every week.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, as a kid, I mean, I wanted to be a police officer, and then I realized they got shot, so I decided I wanted to be an athlete, and then I realized I was too short, and then I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, but then that wasn't enough sports, so then I wanted to be a sports broadcaster, and then I got to college and went into political science, and it's like, now I'm not even doing any of that. And it's
exactly.
Like, so what if you would have said, because you said you're a little bit of tomboy and you growing up, if somebody would have said, you know, hey, maybe you were a boy, and why don't you go get an operation? What if they would have done that to you at 6 or 7 years old?
I think it would have devastated me. I mean, because honestly, I ended up not being, you know, going toward that side. I ended up being girly, you know, and high school and college, I always had my hair done, I always had my makeup on, you know, wanted to wear a dress. So it's not like but yeah, as a child, I was the only girl in the neighborhood. My older sister, she, you know, ignored us younger kids. So she was, I mean, so I didn't want a girl's bike. I had to have a dirt bike, you know, because I was the only girl. Well, why would I want a girl's bike? I didn't want to be teased. And, you know, so obviously I had those tomboy years, but it doesn't mean that I was a boy.
Yeah.
I was still wearing a dress on Sunday and wanted to wear the dress on Sunday.
Yeah. it's interesting. People are like, I guess we're a lot more nuanced
Yeah.
than society wants to allow people to be. And you can still be a guy and like things that are maybe a little bit more sophisticated or maybe a little bit more effeminate, but you can still be manly.
Exactly.
And in the same way, you can be a girl and still like sports or getting in the dirt
Absolutely.
and whatever, but your identity is that which holds.
Mm-hmm.
So that leads to the question, where then does our identity come from?
Well, hopefully you've realized it comes from Jesus Christ. It comes from God. And and when he created us exactly who we wanted us to be. He spent that time in our mother's womb and created each and every one of us to be exactly who we are today. And so when you go back and you realize that God created you to be exactly who you were, if you appreciate the fine arts as a man, then hey, that's who God created you to be, to have a more feminine side. Maybe you're to be a light and a shining light in the arts world, and that's why God created you to be exactly who thou is. So it comes from God and how he wanted you to be, you, exactly you, and exactly who I was supposed to be.
Yeah, it's funny as you were saying that, and you said the part about the mother's womb, it made me think, one of the big buzz phrases over the last 2 years has been follow the science and follow the data. Well, the day you were born, you were given women's 2 X chromosomes, correct?
Mm-hmm, exactly.
And a guy, I was born, it's an X and a Y. And so the data would say to the little boy that's 7 years old that someone's told that you're a girl, he, by the way, his pronoun is a he. Even if he gets an operation, he's a he. Bruce Jenner's a he. Just saying. The data says he's got an X and a Y.
Exactly.
And the data says that the girl has 2 X's. Mm-hmm. So, kind of just on that thought process, what we want to do from here over the next few episodes, we'll kind of get into this right now, is how did Satan, where did it all begin? Where did he begin to hijack man's identity?
From the very beginning. Right there in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve. He immediately came in and made them doubt God's word. And that's exactly what he's doing today. He's making people doubt the science. The science, when you go back, God created woman as woman and man as man. And there's an XX and there's an XY that was done purposely. And so when you get into that identity, you've got to understand, like you said, that doesn't change. But Satan is good at his job. He's a deceiver. And he comes in immediately to steal, kill, and destroy.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he's doing. He's destroying our children. He's destroying who they really should be and their destiny in life. It's
funny you say that, too. Or it's interesting you say that because the first thing he does is come to steal. Yeah. It's not to kill. A lot of times people reverse that. And the reality is if it can steal your identity, then he can kill and destroy.
Absolutely.
I was actually going to bring up this verse over here in Genesis chapter 3. Let me find it. It says in verse 4 that because Satan's tempting through the serpent, the woman, and he said, the serpent said to the woman, you will not surely die. You're not going to surely die if you eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Verse 5, for God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. And as I'm looking at it, that means the number one thing he attacked was really her identity, because he said, if you do this, you're going to be like God.
Exactly.
And what was she already like?
She was already created in his image. Exactly. Him twisting just a thought. All it takes is a thought. And if we don't cast those thoughts down, then the stealing comes in, the deceiving. And that's when we get off track. And so, like you said, it was like immediately, he was going immediately to her identity. You need to be like God. She was already like God. When you go to a child and say, oh, you're going to a little girl, you're acting like a boy, Maybe you're a boy. Maybe you were created wrong. Then what are you telling that child? That they're wrong, that they're, that they weren't created correctly, that there was something wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with them. And that's what's heartbreaking about all this. You're telling them that there's something they're not, and it's gonna totally screw up with their heads, because you are deceiving them and stealing from them, just like Satan stole from Adam and Eve.
So, well, let me ask you a question out of that. And that's a really good point. Let me ask you a question out of that. We'll plant the seed in this one, and then we'll kind of come back and unpack it more in the next episode. In order for him to deceive Eve with, if you'll eat this piece of fruit, you'll be like God. What had happened that she forgot who she was?
She wasn't spending time with the Lord. She was already, the Bible tells us we have to renew our minds daily with the Word. And why? Because we are constantly being bombarded by this world, by Satan and his lies, by people, by circumstances. And when you're not renewing your mind and spending time with the Lord, then that's when you realize, hey, I'm losing something. I'm getting lost here. So, and that's what, she wasn't spending time with God.
So it's possible for a woman, and then Adam also, true, I'm going to throw him out. He messed up too. For people that were created in the image of God, who are in a world with no problems, living in perfection, if they can forget who they are and believe a lie, then it's possible that us that live in a fallen world, they can forget who we are and believe a lie. And so that's really what we're going to, over the next couple of weeks, that's what we're going to help unpack and help you discover who you are and how to relate to truth and walk in truth, because every attack of the enemy is ultimately an attack on your identity. And so we'll say a lot more about that over the next couple of weeks. So, but hopefully this has just stimulated you this morning and stimulated some hunger, maybe some questions that hopefully we'll be able to unpack over the next couple of weeks. So thank you so much for watching. Again, if you're new to the channel, like and subscribe and share it so we can get the gospel out. And God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow.